Well, good morning. It is Thursday morning, and I'm Sharon Taylor. This is Blessings on the Beach, and I'm coming to you from St. Peter Lutheran Church in Fort Myers Beach, Florida. So, thank you for me again today. We have this intentional time to begin our day in God's presence and to just be able to go deep within ourselves and to appreciate our connection and reconnecting ourselves to God. So I'm still using Living the Way of Love, a 40-day devotional written by Mary B. Sullivan. And today, our word is love, and her writing is called Fist Bumps of Love. And the quote is from Luke 5:19. Finding no way to bring him in because of the crowd, they went up on the roof and let him down with his bed through the tiles into the middle of the crowd in front of Jesus. If you remember the story of these men who could not get their friend to Jesus because it was too crowded and they could not push their way through the crowds, and their friend was extremely ill. So they actually dropped him down through the roof so that he would be right there in front of Jesus. So Mary B. writes, gathering to pause and reflect at the end of a busy day, a woman's group was discussing worship as a spiritual practice. Natalie said, the best thing on earth is to watch when people come back from communion. Approach Wilmer in his wheelchair and fist bump him. Natalie was referring to a parishioner who had been a prominent businessman and a beloved member of the community before suffering a severe stroke. Wilmer loved people. He would call clients on birthdays and stop to speak with shopkeepers when walking his laps at the mall. Now he was confined to a wheelchair, and verbal communication is nearly non-existent. As often as possible, his wife Carol, along with a caregiver, would bring Wilmer to church. They strategically would place his wheelchair so that he can participate in the service. Wilmer greets those who have just received the bread and the wine with his own form of communication. Twinkling blue eyes, broad smile, and an arm raised up in a fist bump. After all others have been served, a priest and a layperson approach Wilmer for fist bumps, hugs, and to give him communion. Moved by Natalie's reflection, I called her to ask if I could share her story. She was happy to say, it tears me up every time, despite where he is with his abilities and disabilities. Wilmer continues to communicate love in his openness. He doesn't care whether he knows you or not, whether you are rich or poor, you are going to get a smile and a fist bump. The natural response is to beam a smile and a fist bump back. I have no doubt God is working through Wilmer and Carol, him loving everybody and anybody, and her selflessly caring for him. We are coming together to share bread, to be Jesus' disciples, creating heaven on earth. And there is Wilmer being Jesus. Natalie continued, when I see the clergy come over to bring him communion, I think about the guy on the mat whose friends were so determined to get him close to Jesus. They brought him and Jesus paid attention. Here the clergy goes to meet him, all smiling and seeming honored to give him communion, fist bump and all. When your eyes are open, it is amazing what you can see. When I called Carol to ask if we could share this story, she was in the middle of making fudge for the family. Oh, yes, please do, Carol said. If it helps anyone, that would be great. You know, I didn't even know Natalie, and she sent me a note about how much watching Wilmer means to her. That meant the world to me. People might feel those things, but she took the time to write. Seemingly unaware of her own Jesus-inspired service, Carol closed with, I'm sorry, I've got to go stir the fudge. Just love that little story about how Jesus sees us all and that we can be a part of making sure that others, especially those we love, or those we don't even know that are at the margins of our society. We can be a part of making sure that people have access to God's presence, and that we can take our time to make sure that we are being intentional about paying attention to being in Jesus' presence as well. That it doesn't matter where life is taking us. And it may not be, for this gentleman, Wilmer, his life was not the same as it was before. And he was certainly serving others in his capacity as a businessman and as a pillar of the community. But he was also serving and loving and pointing people to Christ and being Jesus to others in this new capacity, which at first glance might have seemed diminished, but actually his capacity to show Jesus and to give love was actually growing exponentially, even though his body was not what it used to be. And I think that's so important to remember that regardless of where we are in our lives, or if it's about aging, or if it's about ill health, or it's about some disability that has come our way, that there are still opportunities. They won't be the same opportunities, but there are still opportunities for us to be Jesus to each other. And that the wife was being Jesus to him, and he was being Jesus to the community. So I hope that that sense of growing in God's love will be something that will be on your mind today, and being open to how you can be Jesus to others today, how you can be God to others. So thank you for tuning in with me. Just a reminder that you can join us on our YouTube channel for worship on Saturday morning at 9:30, or you can go back and watch that anytime after 9:30. So that's St. Peter Lutheran worship, and I will see you next week. Have a blessed day. Thanks.